Should the assisting dying law be ditched? Let me know your thoughts on that. Give us a call. Back in June, if you remember, MPs voted to legalise assisted dying with a narrow margin. Well, now it's up to the House of Lords to approve it. But they've just put down more than 900 proposed changes to that law. And supporters of the bill say this is an attempt to strangle the bill by procedural delay, adding so many safeguards that the system just simply becomes unusable for the terminally ill people. Now, if it does eventually pass, assisted dying services won't be in place until 2029. That's at the earliest. Stella, what do you think of this? Should it be ditched altogether?
I mean, over 900 amendments is an astonishing number of amendments.
I think it's record-breaking.
For the Brexit bill, it was 820, just to give you a comparison. And that's a private member's bill, right? And I think that makes sense because I think that the way that we treat the dying reflects our values as a society. And people will have different opinions on this. And of course, people can be concerned about those who want to die. But how much are we talking about those who want to live? How much time are we spending talking about hospice care, about how 1 in 5 hospices are worried about the funding cuts, how they have to reduce numbers of beds, how they have to reduce the service that they provide to people who need this pain relief. And I'm really worried about how this debate has opened the floodgates without actual consideration for how this changes our attitude towards life and how it feels about people who are dying and what it means to value a human life. And I don't want to go into religious or moralistic arguments about this, but it is just very glaring to me that we have spent all of this time, all of this media space, and I don't see equal amount of time being given to how are we going to improve the last few years or the last few days of people in an aging society.
Russ, what are your thoughts? People who are in favour of the assisted dying bill are saying, look, this is a deliberate attempt to so-called filibuster, to spend way too much time, to just basically come to a conclusion, oh, this is way too complicated, let's not bother altogether.
The House of Lords is there to scrutinise, to question and to rubber stamp laws, ultimately. So it's good that people are asking questions. I personally am a supporter of the assisted dying bill because I believe that people have the right to choose in certain circumstances, as long as they're lucid and are not being coerced, to decide whether they wish to carry on living or to carry on living with pain and discomfort and various other things. It's incredibly difficult to be on either side, I think, of the fence with the assisted dying law as it is right now. And I think this is why it's so contentious. But I have thought on many occasions there is no dignity in dignitas. We've got to find a better way of being able to help people who wish to end their lives correctly.
Yeah. I mean, is the problem, and this goes to both of you, but Stella, is the problem that ethics and morals are getting in the way? For some people, the idea of ending a human life is just unfathomable. And is this the problem when law comes in to clash with people's morals and ethics and beliefs? I mean, Luciana Berger, who's now in the House of Lords, Baroness Berger, she said that the evidence that has been submitted for the bill just describes it. I think she said the bill is neither safe or workable. Is that, and most of the objections coming because people just find it ethically and morally wrong, or should they put all those things aside and actually look at it as a piece of legislation? Because there are protections there. It's not just simply for everybody. It's for people who've been declared with only 6 months to live, people who wish to deprive themselves of food and drink will not qualify that, so you can't force your way onto the system. There's quite a few safeguards that have been put into place. So why are we getting stuck on this, do you think?
But even as a piece of legislation, the practical problems are quite severe. And it is shocking for people that this is being pushed through, despite the fact that people have these practical considerations, and despite how it is just such a sensitive and difficult thing to say when someone is at that stage in their lives, to what extent they have been coerced. I don't feel reassured by the fact that, of course, coercive control is going to be illegal, because it is just something that is quite difficult to prove. And who is to say, and who really can be the judge of something like that? Obviously, as you said, there is the moral, philosophical, religious argument. I don't think that should ever be the focus, because everybody is allowed to have their own religious views and their own moral outlook in life, and that should not be one for everyone.
Okay. Russ, I know that you're a supporter of it. Let's just have a look at this. Liz Carr, who's of course, the disabled actor and activist, she has repeatedly spoken out against the bill. This was her speaking to the committee on Wednesday.
The one safeguard that there currently is that I feel safe with, and maybe I say this from a privileged position, is that assisted suicide remains a criminal act. Once it becomes a medical treatment, then that's when it terrifies me, because it happens behind closed doors and is based on medical subjectivity. And those doctors and whoever are making those decisions have the same biases and the same prejudices and pressures every single day that view disabled people often as better off dead.
What's your reaction?
Well, I understand completely what she's saying. It is such a difficult subject. The only thing I could bring into the conversation is my experience with my elderly mother, who passed away right after COVID at the age of 87, a very good age. She had Alzheimer's, was in a care home, and got a chest infection, which developed into a form of pneumonia. The doctors in the hospital worked extremely hard with many, many drugs and treatments. And one day the consultant said to me, "We can't do anything else, I'm afraid. We're just going to make her comfortable, and she will be passing away in a period of time within the hospital." Now, to me, that was almost an assisted dying, if you like. She was comfortable, she never suffered. But it's so tricky. I mean, I do firmly believe that if somebody is of sound mind and says to their family and the doctors, "I really don't want to continue like this," that there should be some way, under very legal constraints, under the umbrella of strict laws and rules, that they should be granted their wish. Otherwise, it goes down at cruelty. Alexis, you have a dog. I know it's not a human, but you would know when your dog gives you a little look in the eye and says, "I'm done."
That's the problem.
And you would call the vet.
No, that is insane. I'm sorry, that's insane. And that's exactly the problem. That's exactly what, and what an amazing segment we just watched from that witness. For some people, some lives are not worth living, because humans are arrogant and naive and stupid. And for some people, they look at someone severely disabled, severely deformed, and they're thinking, "Oh my God, I would want to be dead if I was in that situation."
But the law says, or the law would say, that they have to be judged, assessed by separate doctors to be terminally ill and given 6 months to live. That doesn't apply to disabled.
And who are doctors? Who are doctors? I mean, doctors have to take these decisions every day, and I totally get that. But there is something about legalizing assisted suicide, especially when proper palliative care, funded palliative care, only one third of patients get publicly funded palliative care. So as long as we have that, I do not see how this is not going to end to accidents.
All right, let's speak to people at home. John's waiting to speak to us from Staffordshire. John, welcome to the show. What are your thoughts, John?
I find it really depressing, to be honest, when I hear people talk about what could happen to disabled people. It's never going to be about disabled people. It's about people with terminal illnesses who have less than 6 months to live. I watched my brother die with motor neurone disease. It was an appalling situation. It's something you wouldn't wish on anybody. To see somebody go through that with no choice of what they go through is absolutely shocking.
But then,
fact,
John, do you think that
made me decide that if I were to contract motor neurone disease, I would take my own life.
Yeah. But then,
I
John,
would have no
John,
alternative but to do that. So people would be committing me to an early grave, if you like.
Okay, John, let me ask you this question.
No choice.
Stella's point of view is that actually, given the proper palliative care, no one should be suffering when they are going through such horrific situations like motor neuron disease. So people should be made comfortable, and every expense should be given in order to give these people dignity and avoid pain. So if we had that, would you be thinking differently?
The problem is we don't have it. Palliative care is very much, it's a lottery. Some places are very good at it and some places are not so good at it. So it's not something we can rely on to see people through to a comfortable end of life.
Russ,
that's the problem. It's not working.
Does that point
I understand John
resonate
completely.
with you? Because if we don't have the palliative care there, then it is an easy step to say, well, actually, what might be a better solution is if people are assessed and if people have the compos mentis, if you like, to take that decision, then to actually perform assisted dying. And perhaps that's the right way of thinking.
Well, they would be exercising their free will, a God-given right that all of us have, I suppose. But I have to say, listening to John there, I understand not only his frustrations, but I totally understand, given the experiences he had with his brother, why he feels the way that he does. And I think there'll be lots and lots of people who would agree with John, including me.
John, thanks for kicking us off. Anna is in Suffolk. Anna, welcome to the show. What are your thoughts?
Hello there. I agree totally with the, people having a choice. I don't think we've got it quite right. I would love to see palliative care really working well. I had a situation with both my parents. My dad died 5 weeks ago. He had chronic pain, thank you, every single day. Palliative care were involved, but you cannot take away all of someone's pain, even under palliative care. And he was on morphine and you name it, high drugs, lots and lots of drugs, but he had chronic pain every single day, and it was just about making him as comfortable. But even then, he wasn't comfortable. My mum was deemed end of life, 10 weeks ago. She's sitting in a nursing home, fast track. Someone made a decision on her, fast track, end of life, into a nursing home. She has Lewy body dementia. Her quality of life is nothing, absolutely nothing. And, I wouldn't wish that on anybody at all. And the comment about an animal, absolutely. I have a little 22-year-old cat here, and she's not quite as bad as my mum, and I monitor her every single day. And the vet they're very keen, quality of life for the cat. And I said, it's not today, but it might be tomorrow. And I monitor and I monitor and I monitor. And if she was in the situation that my mum is in, I would be done for neglect.
Yeah.
Anna, thank you.
That's the reality.
Anna, thank you. And I'm sorry that it sounds like you've been through it recently in a few weeks. And thank you for joining us. I hope we're there to keep you company. And thank you for calling. Joe's in Merseyside. Joe, welcome to the show. What are your thoughts, Joe?
Hi. I'm so angry listening about animals, dogs and cats, whatever. I nursed my husband for 8 months and he was diagnosed with cancer. One of my things is this, and right up until the day he died, I was there, washed him down, blah, blah, he wouldn't let anybody else do it. But my thoughts are, if someone's been diagnosed with cancer, and someone says the sister died, you don't have to suffer, whatever. What happens a couple of weeks later if there is someone who comes up with a cure and they can be cured?
I mean, Joe,
this person's dead.
Joe, I hear your point. But again, what the law is suggesting is that several panels and several doctors would have to assess whether someone has been given a terminal, and we're not even talking 8, we're talking 6 months. We heard there from motor neuron disease story and a story before that. And I think the idea is that if someone is entering that last stages of their life that could be so hugely painful.
Sure.
And let's not forget that they are going to make that decision. That decision is not going to be made by a doctor or their family.
Yeah.
They themselves have to make that decision. There may be people who have been given 6 months to live and choose not to go down the route of assisted dying. They have the choice, but don't we have the right, shouldn't we have the ability to give people this choice? And if they want it, they can take it. If they don't want it, they don't have to take it.
Yeah, but when you think, if I go back nearly 40 years ago, doctors in hospitals made a decision, no one around, they can give them the morphine and they can go peacefully into a sleep and into heaven or wherever they go.
Right, well, I mean...
so what's all this talk about?
Well, I think that's less transparent. Joe, thank you for your call, by the way. Sorry, we're running out of time, but I mean... That's sort of almost less transparent, because from some of the stories that we're hearing there, Stella, it feels like the doctors are making those sort of palliative care decisions anyway, where they're saying, look, we're going to have to stop care because there's nothing more we can do.
So there is already, yes, absolutely, and there is medical precedent for how this is done, but this is completely different from what we're talking about here, right?
Well, here we're going to give people the option to actually...
that would be at a much earlier stage than what actually happens right now, and it is exactly right that this is how a lot of people lives finish.
I have to leave it there only because we've used up all our time on this. I'm sure it's a topic that we're going to be coming back to in the weeks to come. But we're going to be moving on after the break and asking if people with expensive homes should pay double the amount of council tax. What if it means that people in the lower council tax bands of A, B, C and D end up paying less? 0207 862 2222 is the number that you need. See you after the break.